Hello, Podfiesta attendees. I am so excited to be here. My name is Evans. More about me in a minute, but today we're going to talk about 5 proven paths for entrepreneurs to monetize podcasts and fill your programs and services with dream clients. But before we get into that, first I want to thank the host, Podfiesta, Miko, the amazing team, everybody involved with this. This is so exciting, and I'm grateful to be a part of this and to be here with all of you. Now, once again, I wanted to introduce myself. I won't spend a lot of time because I want to get to the good stuff, but my name is Evans Putman. I'm a coach, consultant, author, speaker, and podcast host. I help podcasting entrepreneurs build profitable, scalable, dream client businesses that change lives using a specific dream client podcast blueprint. And I'm excited to be here to share some great ways for each of you to start monetizing your podcast today. And here's the kicker. I'm even going to share a few tips for those of you who may not even have launched yet, how you can go out and start monetizing before you even launch. Now, real quickly, I'm the creator of the 7-Figure Dream Client Podcast Blueprint. I'm the growth and monetization consultant at Amplify You with my amazing partner, Michelle Abraham. I am also the best-selling author for a book, $1 Million Dads. And one thing that I'm really super proud of, because this person was my coach and my mentor, my podcast training has been licensed by ClickFunnels and is now used in Russell Brunson's high-ticket coaching program. And for those of you who don't know who Russell Brunson is, he is the founder of ClickFunnels along with Todd Dickerson, those two fellas standing next to me, the guy with no hair in that picture. So as I mentioned, I work with Amplify You with the amazing Michelle Abraham, who you may have already met at Podfiesta. If not, she'll be coming up soon and you don't want to miss her talk. She is an amazing podcasting expert, and together we've helped launch over 200 successful podcasts that have generated millions of listener downloads and millions in revenue. But enough about us, so let's get started, because I know y'all want to know this stuff, right? The good stuff, how to monetize your podcast and fill your programs and services with dream clients. And I'm excited to share this with you. So who is this for? This presentation is for entrepreneurs with offers. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is we're not going to dive into how to get sponsorships, how to get ads in your podcast. Those are very viable ways to make money, and there's nothing wrong with those. I like those. Just depends on your situation. But the people that we work with are entrepreneurs who have their own programs, products, and services. People like agency owners, service providers, coaches, consultants, course creators, expert businesses, speakers, brick and mortar businesses, and on and on. So if you're an entrepreneur and you sell something and you work with clients and customers, then this is going to be perfect for you to get started monetizing your podcast. So, like I mentioned before, what I wanted to do for you all, because I wasn't sure if everybody here was going to have a podcast, and I wanted to just make this inclusive for everybody, because if you do not have a podcast, I'm going to share a couple ways where you can start monetizing through podcasts right away. And those 2 specific strategies can also be used by those of you who do have podcasts. So whether you have a podcast now or don't, you're still going to get some value out of this. All right, so we're going to dive right in. Sell as a guest. This is the first category I want to talk about, and this is perfect for those of you who do not have podcasts yet. First thing we're going to mention is the pitch without pitching method. The pitch without pitching method. Now, the way this works, and first of all, a little background, right? This was something that I learned from one of my coaches and mentors who used this specific method along with his book to go on podcasts and make 6 figures from podcast interviews. And I'm talking about 6 figures from one appearance. Okay, so that's how powerful this is. But the thing about it is it's not salesy. You're not pitching. You're not going on somebody else's podcast and selling throughout the whole process, right? That's why it's called the pitch without pitching method. And a quick overview. First and foremost, with everything that I teach, the first thing that happens, some people will say sales come before marketing. I always say serving comes before sales. That goes with all of these strategies. So with this one, the first thing you're going to be doing is serving that audience at a high level, giving, over-delivering on value, sharing things that they can use immediately to take out into their lives, into their business, so that they see you as someone who is giving without taking first, right? So that's the pitch without pitching method. And what happens is that if you, let's just pretend I have a book here, right? I'm gonna give you a real quick, fast example. When you go onto the podcast as a guest, you want to have 3 or 4 main topics that relate to the thing you're going to be offering the listeners at the end of your podcast interview, okay? So in this instance, let's say I have a book here, right? A book that I'm going to give people access to for free. Free plus shipping, very popular in the entrepreneurial world. Let's pretend this is my book. In my book, I've chosen 3 or 4 main pillar topics that I can discuss on this interview. I share those with the host before I come on because, as we know, usually the host will reach out to us. A good host will say, hey, what's going on in your life right now? Do you have any offers? Do you have any things that you want to talk about that are focused on what's going on in your business right now? And you can provide that information. And then throughout the interview, you will generally get asked 2 or 3 questions related to that. So that's why to have this in mind. So, right, so let's say we're just going to pretend that Michelle is interviewing me, and Michelle says, hey, Evans, would you tell me a little about the story behind how you see failure as just a stepping stone to success? And that's where it opens the door, the opportunity for me to say, you know, Michelle, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's a really important topic, and many entrepreneurs out there really need to hear this message. And it was one that I needed to hear at the time, and I needed to learn as well. And so you go into this story behind it, and you can actually mention, you know, this story and this tactic that I'm sharing with you is actually in my book, and I share this exact story, and it goes like this. So right then you've anchored your book as being valuable and getting top of mind with that listener. That's all that there is to it. So throughout that interview, you anchor to the free thing. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be your free PDF download with 10 sort of takeaways on it. You can hit maybe 2 or 3 of those and mention them in the episode. So at the end, when the guest or the host, says, hey, how can these folks learn more about you? What you end up saying is, well, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that. We've talked about my book in the interview with 2 or 3 things that we've mentioned in stories that I've shared in this interview. And I wanted to give your listeners free access to my book. They can go here to download it now or go here to buy it, and all they have to do is pay for shipping. So that is the pitch without pitching method, because you have anchored to that free thing you're going to give them at the end of the episode as a sign of goodwill to the host and to their audience, because you've anchored value 2 or 3 times and connected it to that free thing. At the end, that makes that free thing much more desirable, and you bring people over into your world, get them on your email list, get them in your follow-up funnels, get them into your sales funnel. That is one way you can monetize as a guest. Hope you found that pretty interesting. I know I went through it quickly, but we're short on time, and I got a lot I want to share with you. So next, the stealth demonstration method. Now this is interesting because this is something that I stumbled onto, and I didn't mean to in any way whatsoever. But let's say you are someone like myself, right? You provide a service. I provide coaching and consulting. I help entrepreneurs with podcasts monetize their podcast, grow their podcast. So almost any podcaster is going to be a good guest, a good host for me, a good target for me to be on their show. But just put put yourself in those shoes, right? And I'm sharing with you how this happened for me. I generally go out and target shows that I want to get on, that not necessarily for the hosts themselves, but for their audience. I want to make sure their audience is a good fit for me. I have specific types of podcasting entrepreneurs that I like to work with. Not every entrepreneur with a podcast is a fit for me and my services. So generally, I use a specific strategy to do research and find these hosts that have audiences that I want to reach. Now, what happened that I discovered authentically and without meaning to was by going on these shows and demonstrating how I can help podcasters grow and monetize their shows and their business, right? How to get more profits into their business, how to attract dream clients and fill their programs and services. By doing that, over-delivering value, at the end, what happened 2 or 3 times, and for me, it takes 3 or 4 times before I get the aha, right? I'm a little slow sometimes. But what happened was these hosts actually at the end were like, wow, that was amazing value. Evans, thanks for sharing that with us. This was after the interview was over, so the mic was cut off, right? The recording was done. And they're just like, this was great. I was blown away with some of these things. You know, I've been having trouble growing my audience. Do you think we could circle back at some time? Could I get on your calendar and talk to you about how you may help me? And I'm like, of course, I'd love to. And my goal was not to go on that show to do that. But if you are someone who is an expert, let's say in Facebook ads, you run a Facebook ads marketing agency, right? And you find some podcast hosts that maybe they're a coach, and you go do a little research on them and you see that they don't do any ads, or they do mostly organic, and you know that ads could help them and help their audience. You target them, you get an interview on their show. You don't go there to sell them at all. All you do is go there to give value, demonstrate. That's why it's called the demonstration method. You demonstrate you can help them by actually helping them, right? That's what you do. That's the thing that I learned from Frank Kern. The best way to gain trust and to win somebody over is to demonstrate you can help them by actually helping them. So as you do that on that show with the interview process and help that audience and demonstrate you can help them achieve a desired result, that host may actually say to you, hey, I'd love to talk to you about Facebook ads. Do you think you can help me? So there's another way you can do this. Both of these you can do. Now, remember, if you have a podcast and also if you don't have a podcast, that's what makes this so powerful. All right, so next, we're going to go into some strategies that do require you to have a podcast. Okay, so you need to have a podcast at this point. This one is called the Sell Your Guest method. I like to call it, well, it's the Sell Your Guest, and it's the Agency Attract and Ascend method. The reason I call it the Agency Attract and Ascend method is because this works really well for those of you who run agencies, digital marketing agencies, maybe podcast agencies, speaker agencies, book agencies, any kind of agency that has a high ticket done for you type service. Okay? What you do in this instance is you go out and you target guests to come on your show that are ideal clients for your services. So hear what I said again, right? You're not just going to go out and bring guests on your show, anybody and everybody. You want to specifically use a specific strategy that we teach our students and clients. It's not really hard. If you know your avatar, you can go out and do the research and find people that are great fits, both for your show, for your audience, always audience first, but also could be great clients for you. So this is sort of like the one I just shared with you, but in reverse, okay? Now what you do in this instance is you go out and you bring this person on your show. You take a little time beforehand to get to know them, a little pre-interview, ask them a few questions. There's some really smart ways you can ask questions to dig a little bit into their business without sounding like you're digging into their business, sort of like the pitch without pitching method. It's just a good way to have a conversation, ask the right questions, sort of get in the back of your mind what some of their pain points are with their business. Then you bring them on regular interview, put them on give them the platform, put them on a pedestal, make them the authority, make them look good, like we always want to do. We want to serve our guests at the highest level, but have a great conversation that's focused on them, that helps them deliver value to your audience. And at the end, you basically just ask them, say, hey, now that we're done, what we like to do is put together some promotional materials, get together a plan, make sure we have the best way to promote you, to make you look good and get you out there into the world so people listen to you on the show. Can we get back in touch with you in a couple of weeks to review that real quickly? It won't take time. Just review that plan, and then we'll share that with you so you can also share it as well. And they're like, yes, of course, absolutely. Because at the end of the interview, people are excited. They're excited and they want to, it's that sense of reciprocity, right? You have served them. Now they want to serve you back. And they know there's something in it for them too, because they're getting promoted and they want to help make sure they get their message and their word out, right? And themselves out. So then at that follow-up meeting is where you go over the plan, the promotion plan, you talk about it. And at the end, you're like, hey, while we were discussing your business in the pre-interview, you mentioned a couple of things that, if it's okay with you, do you mind? I think I could help you with those. And I'd like to share a little bit about how that might look. It can be as simple as that, where you then lead into a sales conversation, which can be more about sharing a couple strategies on how you can help them, listening to some more of their pain points and questions, and then you potentially sell them as one of your agency clients. That's the ascend part, right? You attract them to your show, you ascend them up into being a client. Next, this is really, I like this one more than the sell your guest, but I'll tell you, the selling your guest is a great way to do it if you do it right. You don't want to be salesy, right? But the sell with your guests works. You don't need to be an agency to do this. You could be an expert, maybe a speaker, a course creator. Maybe you help people write books. Maybe you are an author. Maybe you're a coach, a consultant. It doesn't really matter. This one works great because the whole point of this one is to find someone who comes on your show, and you can specifically go out and target these people as well using specific strategies to do the research and find the right people to come on your show that will, first, say it with me everybody, serve your audience, and second, potentially be a partnership with you, okay? So it's always serve your audience first, right? So you bring these people on your show, you get to know them, you go through the interview process, they share everything, you find out, and here's the key too, let's back up just a minute. They are a complement to what you offer. Let's say you are for instance, maybe you're a podcast agency and you have a lot of clients that are interested in moving from organic to the next step and doing some Facebook ads. You bring on a Facebook ads expert. And as you get to know them in this process of doing the interview, you realize they're a good fit. Okay, and you can also track your numbers and look to see, is this a very popular episode? Did we get a lot of people listening to it? Did they connect with it? Did we get reviews? Did we get people reaching out asking about the guest? If you start seeing clues like that they've really connected with your audience, then you can sort of sit back and go, you know what? This is a potential JV partnership. Maybe I can bring them on to offer something to my audience. I can get on their show to offer something to their audience. We can do a webinar together. We can do a course together. We could do a workshop together. So many opportunities. And the reason I really love this one is because it opens the door for you to other people's audiences, but it also serves your audience as well. And it helps another entrepreneur. It creates a win-win-win. Everybody involved wins. And the great thing about it is, if you follow a specific way of doing this, something that we teach our clients and our customers, you can start finding those clues to know whether or not they're a good collaborating partner, right? So you don't want to spend a lot of time going back and forth, figuring out, okay, so we'll do a webinar here, let's meet, let's do this. So it's time consuming, right? Is what I'm trying to say. And then if it flops, you've wasted all that time. But the best way to do it is to figure out and follow the breadcrumbs to see if they connect with your audience. And you can go on their podcast if they have one too and follow a specific way. Give them something for free at the end that you can track to see how many leads come over. Find out what your reach was with that podcast if you connected with their audience. And then when you combine those two together, it creates synergy, and it also creates the environment where this is gonna be successful if we do it right. We don't have to just hope that we're gonna get together and do a JV partnership. We can already see where there's synergy between our audiences, between our services, and we like each other and want to work together too. So there's Sell with Your Guest, one of my absolute favorite things to do. All right, so let's take a breath here. Hope everybody's still with me. I know I'm moving fast. I usually talk a little slower. I'm talking a little extra fast because I'm from the South here in the United States, where we tend to speak 1-minute sentences, which could really be a 10-second sentence. So I'm speaking a little quicker, and I hope I'm not moving too fast. So we're taking a breath for a second. Everybody just go, ah. And now we're gonna get into the good stuff. Does that sound good? Actually, I shared the good stuff with you already, but this is the even better stuff. This is where I really love it. Now this is, well, I'm just gonna open a loop a little bit. I've got something at the end I'm gonna share with you, and an amazing story about one of my clients that I work with, something that I sort of made my name in the business with. We're getting into that a little bit right now, the even better stuff. And the reason I say this is with some of the strategies I shared before, they included selling one-to-one, right? As an agency selling one-to-one. They included maybe just going on a show and the host asks you about doing business with you. That's more of a one-to-one environment. It talks about going out and getting people over from, pitch without pitching, getting them into your world. That brings them into your lead generation and moves, but it takes a little bit of effort, right? So, and of course the JV thing is going to take some time and some effort as well. But that one I like. The reason I like it is because it sort of falls into this pattern too as well. And what I'm getting ready to share with you, these are my favorite two strategies because one, they're evergreen. They're evergreen. Podcasts are evergreen. It is not, we do not control when somebody comes into our podcasting world. They may jump into a podcast 15 shows back, and the offer and the funnel that you're pushing them in that I'm getting ready to share with you will still be the same thing. So it's evergreen. It sits out there and it continues to bring you leads and customers and clients. It's repeatable. Okay, it's repeatable because you don't have to go out and replicate it over and over and over. Like I said, again, it's sitting there in the background. It's actually a funnel pulling these people in, getting you leads, cultivating those leads, monetizing those leads, sending them into your programs and your services. It's also scalable because it is one-to-many instead of one-to-one. Remember when I mentioned earlier today, I said I help entrepreneurs with podcasts build profitable, scalable dream client businesses that change lives. Scalable because it's one-to-many. Okay, so you can continue to grow and you're not exchanging your time for money in these instances, which is why I love it. And sellable. And that I'm going to share, I'm going to leave that for the end, but just remember that, sellable. I'm going to leave that for the end when I share something with you and share a little story. All right, when you add all these four up, what do you get? Freedom. The entrepreneurial dream. You get to find yourself as a podcasting entrepreneur doing what you do, what you love to do. And for most of us, that is just getting in front of a microphone and speaking, sharing our message, sharing our mission, and creating positive impact in the world. This allows you to have that freedom while you have a system behind you monetizing. And I know this works because I can't tell you, but I'm going to tell you at the end. I promise I'm going to share. I know I keep repeating that, but I don't want to distract from the strategies yet. And then I'm going to share the story with you at the end. Okay. I promise. I promise. And we're not too far away. All right. So this is what I call the Core 4 podcast funnel framework. It is the basis of the 7-figure podcast blueprint that I shared earlier, that I mentioned earlier when I was introducing myself. And there are 2 strategies I want to share with you on this. Okay. But this is the way it looks in both instances. Okay. Connect. You're going to connect with your audience, cultivate that audience into leads, into listeners, convert them into clients, into prospects, obviously, and then have a conversation where you can ascend them into your high ticket premium signature programs, or a conversation that continues for those who did not choose to buy yet, but then will come back later and buy. Because you got to keep that conversation going. The biggest mistake I see with entrepreneurs is they forget the follow-up. And it's all about a conversation. It's not about pitching. It's not about a transaction. It's about a conversation. It's about a transformation for that client. All right. So first and foremost, the customer cultivation and identifier podcast funnel strategy. This is what it looks like. So this might look a little bit more for those of you who build out funnels, who put together sales funnels, you may understand this. I'm going to go through it real quickly. We're going to start on the far left, down at the bottom. At least it's my left. It's probably maybe your right, maybe your left. I'm just not even sure at this point. But those little blue people down there, that's who we're talking about. That is your ideal listener, the audience out there, the people that you're going after, that you want to connect with, okay? Specific way of connecting with them to make sure that you bring them to the next step, which is to get them into your podcast world. Okay, and as you can see, there's one of my podcast clients there, the story that I've been promised you that you're going to get in just a little bit. 4 million listeners at that point. It baffled me that we grew that much and that fast, but it was great. So one of the reasons we did that is because we found a way to proactively go out, connect, and create a connection, which is even more important. Not communicate, but create a connection with our ideal listener and bring them to our podcast, where we cultivate that relationship, as you can see, deepen the relationship, build that trust, provide them value, show them you can help them in your podcast, being authentic, over-delivering. Think about how you build relationships in real life. This is where we often forget as podcasters and entrepreneurs. We look at numbers. These are not numbers, they're people, right? Serve your audience first. Cultivate that relationship. Move them, then give them the opportunity, right? You give them the opportunity to take the next step. And because you have cultivated the relationship the right way, they want to take the next step because they see that's the path to their desired transformation. And at this point, they know you understand their internal pains. They understand that you know how to offer a solution to their problem. And they trust you at this point because you've cultivated the relationship correctly. So as soon as you offer them the opportunity to opt in, that would be your opt-in page where it says convert and opt-in for those of you. Where they come in, they exchange their email address, maybe they send a text message to get your free thing. Or in our instance, we had a specific way of doing it. We gave away a lot of free things. And that's a strategy that I share with my clients, but it was one that actually got our opt-in rate at 78% and turned those people into 80% of them our highest value buyers. But it's a specific way of doing lead generation differently. It's more about building remarkable relationships through your lead cultivation, okay? Then, as soon as they opt in, there's always a thank you page, okay? And on the thank you page, where you generally just say thank you, there's something on your way to your inbox now, go check it. Check your spam if you don't see it. We all know that message. Well, here, you're actually giving them an opportunity to buy. Let them dip their toes in the water a little bit, right? Nothing big, something small, something that could be a sort of an outtake, a module from one of your courses, but here's the key. First of all, you want it to be something very valuable, very easy to implement, not complicated, like a 1, 2, 3, boom, you're done, and you get this result. So that when they do that 1, 2, 3 and get that result, they've built up even more trust with you, okay? So that gives them the opportunity to buy out of the funnel, right out of your podcast. So opt in, thank you page, first opportunity to dip their toes in the water, buy something from you. Some of them will buy again. So you give them the opportunity. After they buy this, hey, thanks for getting that. Now that you've gotten that and the result you're going to get from that, you're going to need this as well to help take the next step. Okay, so it's the next logical step. Often, here's some value for you all doing this that we learned through mistakes, but we finally dialed it in. If what you offer here on this thank you page for their first buying opportunity solves a problem, right? That's great. You got to solve that problem, give them a quick win. What happens next is, if this problem being solved can open the door to a new problem that you can solve here, excuse me, it was that important that we jumped out. So back to it. So if it solves that here, then the logical thing is for them to buy. So let me give you an example. For instance, in this example, Real Estate Rockstars with Pat Hyben, we sold real estate sales training. And offer one, we offered them the opportunity to get a training that would help them sit across the table from a home seller, get them to sign a contract so that myself as the agent now had that listing and I could sell that home. Okay, so what did that do now? All of a sudden, I'm really good at closing at that table and getting the seller to sign the contract. Well, that opens up the door for me now being really good at that, but I got to have seller leads. I got to have leads to actually get in their home to get them to sign the contract. Guess what we sold in step 2? Solved a problem, opened up a door for a new problem, solved it over here. Once again, so important. We're zooming in. There you go, right? So I want you to think of it that way. But what I want you to think of too is like value at every step of the way. Value, quick win, building trust, deepening the relationship. Okay, and then like I said, conversation, follow-up conversation. So in this instance, people may not buy here. They may not buy here, right? They may just opt in, get your free thing. They're over here. They're being followed up, creating follow-up conversations. We had a specific way of doing it. We pushed them back. We give them a free resource area with a lot of cool stuff in it. Wasn't just one little download thing, but we had a specific way of designing that resource area. So we were able to stealthily sell out of it. We were able to give them really good value, things they could take and use in their business right away, things that would help them overcome objections to what we sold. So there's a really specific way of doing it, but there's a tip for you. Give them more than they expect to get for free, and you'll build a prospect that is easily transferable to the next step, okay? So if they opt in and they come here, we put them in a different bucket. Now they've been identified as a buyer. Remember, I called this the Customer Cultivation and Identifier podcast funnel. We cultivate the relationship. Then we are able to identify the buyers. We're able to identify a hyperactive buyer who we could then reach out to specifically to ascend into our bigger ticket programs. So if they bought again immediately, we're like, wow, that person's a hot buyer. Let's reach out to them now, see if we can serve them at a higher level by giving them a great deal and bring them over here into this program, okay? That's this funnel, and I love it. It benefited us really well, and I'm going to share that with you in a second. I keep promising that I know, but I don't want to distract you from all the strategies. We got one more to go. I hope you're still with me. High Profit Dream Client Podcast Funnel. This is my absolute favorite. I'm sorry, I saved it for last, but this is my absolute favorite out of all of these. This is the one that I specifically teach my clients now because I see how it changes their lives once they implement this. There's nothing wrong with this funnel that I shared with you. It's great. One thing you got to know about this funnel, because you're leading them into a smaller, dip your toes in the water kind of offer there, the first thing you offer to sell them, the price points are lower, you got to have a bigger audience coming in the front end. So you need a lot of traffic. It's similar to running ads and sponsorships. They want to see a lot of traffic, a lot of listeners, a lot of engaged listeners. You got to have that for this funnel to really make you a lot of money. So what I always suggest first, and this is my favorite, like I said, the High Profit Dream Client podcast funnel follows the same exact funnel framework: connect, cultivate, convert, conversation, but it's a little different. I'm going to show you how. What you do in this one, once again, we got our little blue people over there, right? Little blue people, they're really popular in the podcast world. If you're not chasing them, go out and find you some little blue people. They love to listen to podcasts, evidently, right? So go get those little blue people. Once again, connect with them in a specific way that shows them you understand their internal problems, you can provide a solution to that problem, and they can see that you are the source for their transformation to get their desired result. By doing that, they're going to be in your podcast listening and listening and listening. You're going to be cultivating that relationship by serving your audience. Remember that? I should just have like a big t-shirt that says serve your audience. Somebody don't steal that, please. Let's do that. Maybe Podfiesta, how about that? Let's put together some Podfiesta serve your audience t-shirts. Go ahead, take that idea, run with it. I'd buy one. Okay, back to this. Connect. You've connected with them. You're cultivating that relationship. Okay, same thing as before. Just continue, inspire and encourage. Show them the path. Demonstrate you can help them by giving them the type of content that actually helps them, moves them one step towards their ideal transformation, their goal, their desired result. You show them the opportunity that exists and you give them the path to get there. All of that needs to be in your podcast. And the absolute best way to do it, I'm going to give you a hint if nobody knows this. I'm sure most of you do, but somebody might not. Use immersive stories that you tell that help break false beliefs, overcome objections, allow that person to feel as if they've already achieved that result, see the vision of themselves achieving it, and see the path laid out to get there. If they can immerse themselves in the stories you tell in your episodes, then the rest of this is so easy. Okay, so then the next step. Once again, we're going to get them to opt in, give us their email address in exchange for something extremely valuable. Once again, I highly recommend the way we did it. Give them more than they expect. Free resource area, free members area that has more than one thing in it. If you go through that, I mean, this will blow you away. When I go and do speeches and talks to other podcasters in their high ticket programs and their masterminds, and I share this in depth with them, how it works, they're blown away and everybody wants to dive in on that. But I'm telling you now, if you guys, you don't need to know the exact strategy right now because we can't get into the tactics of it. We don't have time for that. But what I will share with you is if you give them more than they expect, everybody out there is doing, hey, opt in, get my free PDF guide. Opt in, get my free ebook. You know, maybe get my 5-part email series that's going to show you this thing. Everybody's doing that. Be different. Give more. Serve your audience. Over-deliver. Give them 10 things for free in a little members area. That act alone is going to build so much trust and create so much reciprocity where they want to buy from you that it'll blow you away. Okay, so that's my tip. Once they come out of this opt-in page, they've opted in, the thank you page, here's where we're different. The thank you page is going to include a free training, a video training. It could be a webinar. It could be a video sales letter. It could be a mini webinar, just a short and condensed version of it, a web class. You can call it whatever you want. One of my favorites is to use a client success testimonial success story. Or did I say that wrong? Client success case study video. There we go. I'm getting a little loopy here at the end. I'm so excited. Client success case study video. One of my favorites. Very easy to create. If you've got a client that had some major success with you, like some of the ones I've worked with that I've chosen for these, then they're very easy to create. You can get, and I actually know somebody in my coaching program that uses one of these. They were building a webinar that was taking them time to build that webinar for their core content that would sit right here. That client success story, the video, the case study video, that's an interview type video where you interview your client, you go through some specific questions that you ask, and then you can actually add a little bit of teaching at the end, like here's the story of what they got, where they were, what they did, what they got, the big results on the back end. Now, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with me. Hey, everybody, do you want me to show you real quickly how they did it? Then you add a little bit of teaching at the end, right? That worked so well for them that they just didn't even, they decide we're never even going to do a webinar. We don't need to. We just keep this here. That thing has gotten them to the point where they are making almost 6 figures a month from their coaching program, 6 figures a month using this process. Okay, so opt-in, thank you page, they watch, a webinar, a web class, a training, whatever. But the main thing is it demonstrates you can help them by actually helping them. Remember, we talked about that earlier. Demonstrate you can help them by actually helping them. Then from that point, you just basically say, hey, if you'd like to find out how we could help you get more, come over here, fill out an application, book a call. Then, if they do not book a call, let's say they watch this, but they don't book a call, you follow up with the type of emails that are not transactional, with the type of emails that serve your audience, that over-deliver, that give value, that overcome objections, that knock over false beliefs, that get them to then feel good enough to where they know, like, and trust you a little bit more, that they take the next step and book a call. Okay, so it's all about the follow-up conversations. And I have this in red because in both instances, both of these funnels, the follow-up conversations are going to get you more clients, more sales, more profits than the initial opportunity. So there we have it. And the one thing I left out with this that I've got to reiterate, you may have noticed through this application phone call, this is for your premium core offer, your signature offer, your high ticket offer. And many of our clients have come to us and been like, I don't have that. I've got like a $397 or a $497 thing that I sell through a video sales letter. We do a little bit of tweaking. Next thing you know, we're selling it for $5,000. They're getting a lot of success. Next thing you know, we bump that up a little bit more, bump it up a little bit more, add to it, give more value, more big wins. It's all about serving your audience who are now dream clients. So I hope everybody got a lot out of this. I wish I had time. I wish I was here live and I could actually do some Q&A sessions, but you guys can find me on Facebook anywhere, and actually put my link in here at the end where you can reach out to me. I'm always open to discuss. I'm always open to connect. I would rather you reach out to me on Facebook one-to-one and shoot me a message so we could have a real conversation. That's why I love podcasting. It gives us the chance to connect. Connect with our audience, connect with other podcasters, connect with amazing people like you all here, people like Miko, his team, everybody that put this together. And I'm so grateful that you guys let me sit here and talk about monetizing podcasts, because it is something that fires me up, because I know how important it is for you as a podcaster to be able to continue to fulfill your mission and to share your message, because you're changing the world one conversation at a time. And it really hits home with me. And the only way you can continue to do that as an entrepreneur and as a podcaster is to have some revenue coming in. And these ways, not only can you serve the world with your message and with your mission, but you can also impact people's lives by bringing them into your world, giving them a program, a service, an offer that helps change their lives. And it is huge. It's why we do what we do. It's why I love to work with the people I work with. And it's why I'm so grateful and appreciative to be able to share with you all today. I promised, so here we go. Okay. I wanted to provide each of you a little opportunity to watch this for the sole reason, not just because I want to share it with you, but because I want you to watch it so that you can see how this is done and implement it into your monetization funnel. This is a client case study with my client, Pat, how he went from no online experience, no offer, no revenue, to $500,000 in sales in 12 months without paid ads through his podcast. He's the one which you may recognize that we grew his podcast to over 4 million listeners. He's the one that we helped do this, put together this process. The funnels that I just shared with you, they were not something I learned. They were something that I earned, that I put together piece by piece along the way and created and built success. And now I want to share that success with others, and that's what I do. But the other thing about Pat that I want to share with you that is so amazing, that after this was shot and after I left working with him and went out to serve other clients, the system that we left in place, and you'll hear him say this in the case study video, so I'm not going to give it all away. The system that we left in place, he was able to run with like a team of 2 members, and all he had to do is speak into a microphone, share his message and mission. They continued to stay at 150,000 average monthly listeners. They continued to bring in revenue at a pace which took them quickly over the 7-figure mark. And because we built this business the right way, by building a strong listenership, by building an email list that was very, very strong and very valuable, doing it the right way with that free resource area, by creating a system that operated Evergreen and repeatable and automatically on the back end, that it was almost like a franchise, like they could take it and transfer it to somebody else. That's what happened. He was able to take a podcast, which he was about to shut down and not do anymore, to grow, to get all this success, and then sell that podcast and that business. So as you know, in the beginning where I said I help entrepreneurs with podcasts build profitable, scalable, I should add sellable, dream client businesses that change lives. That's what we did for Pat, and that's what I go out and do now for everybody. If you want to watch that, follow that URL. It's free. And like I said, there's my Facebook address. Please reach out to me and let's talk. You know, if you've got any questions about what I shared today, let me know you're at Podfiesta. We'll book a time together, not a sales call, not a pitch call, nothing like that. Not even a stealth pitch without pitching call. We'll just get on there and I'll answer your questions because I want to serve you, and I appreciate what Miko has done and his team, which has been so supportive throughout this process. Everything about this is so amazing, and I'm glad he's doing it, that I'm willing to help because I wasn't able to be here to answer questions. I'm wide open to take some time and answer questions with you later at your convenience. So thank you everybody once again for having me. I'm gonna go really quick back to the top. Everybody hold on. We gotta get here. There we go. Thank you, Podfiesta. Thank you everybody. Grateful, appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the summit.